try and raise my voice. Try and raise my voice. Okay, so Moshe Rabbeinu, we're up to Sheni. We're up to Sheni. When Moshe Rabbeinu is given the warning from Makas Arba, Pharaoh has kicked him out. Pharaoh's kicked him out. So now to activate, please. Hashem and Moshe. Hashem says to Moshe, "Nitzei yodcha al eretz Mitzrayim, stretch your hand over the land of Mitzrayim, bo arbe." What does bo arbe mean? Literally with arbe, yeah? So Rashi already is more of the problem here. So Rashi says, "Bishvil ha'arbe." For the makkah of arbe, raise your hand. Well, the Ma'aseh states, the Ma'aseh says, "Ba arba," with arba, no? That's what it says. Says the Orach HaKodesh, Moshe Rabbeinu had to take a locust and put it on his stick. He took a locust and put it on his stick. So it's literally, you tell you, "Ba arba," with an arba, stretch your hand over all directions of Mitzrayim. The Yal al Eretz Mitzrayim, and that will bring up the arba over the land of Mitzrayim. The yochal et kol esev ha'oretz, will eat all the vegetation of the ground. Es kol asher hishya borod, anything which remained after makas borod. After makas borod, anything left over, any greenery left over, will be eaten by the arba. Okay. So Vayei Moshe's matei al eretz Mitzrayim. So Moshe puts his hand around all directions. An east wind started blowing. Ba'aretz. Where's Ba'aretz? Which land? Israel. There's Ba'aretz. Doesn't say Mitzrayim. There's in the world. So an east wind starts blowing around the whole of planet Earth. The whole of planet Earth. They say, yeah? They do. All that day and the next night, the wind starts blowing. Yeah? So it's not chat that we'll see in a second, that the arba flew in as they normally do. That's not what happened. The wind starts blowing around the whole of planet Earth, coming from the east. Now, normally, during a 24-hour period, the wind's blowing different directions, different winds going on in the wind. And here, for 24 hours, there's only an east wind blowing. No, so esa arba. It's from the east, east wind. Yeah, it's from the east, I think. Easterly wind. I think it's from the east, yeah. The Ruach HaKod Nosas Arba is airlifted. They did not fly in. They were airlifted in. Every single locust on planet Earth to Ba'aretz, the whole world. Every single locust on planet Earth was airlifted into Mitzrayim. David. So again, to show Paroi, this is not Kishuf. This is not. Now, very interesting. The very interesting medrash, very strange medrash. It says there's no ein arba melech. The arba has no king. Most animals, yeah, you know, the bees, you've got a queen bee, yeah. There's like a leader to the pack sort of thing. Arba don't have that. Which means, she says, Kishuv can't work on arba. All Kishuv does is it goes to the malacha over wherever it's over, and it does something to him, and it brings or takes something away wherever it does. He said, but Arba doesn't have one. So the Chatzum apparently couldn't even dream maybe this was Kishuv. But the way it came as well was different. So what happened? Vayal ha'arba akoleres Mitzrayim. So it's airlifted in, and they're hovering over Mitzrayim. Yeah, Vayal ha'arba akoleres Mitzrayim. So normally they fly in at ground level. You see pictures of plagues of locusts. They're all over everywhere. But no, here they all come in, and they're hovering over the land of Mitzrayim. And then in one go, Vayonach b'chol gvul Mitzrayim. Straight down. Like the Harrier jump jets used to have in the Navy. Yeah? They up and down. They didn't. It was a very, very interesting thing. Now, I'll tell you something funny. Apparently, very posh functions. You go to Hamisha function, yeah? So they've got, let's say, 10 tables. And they've got, let's say, I don't know, 8 or 10 waiters. So you see the chicken comes out to table A, the table B. And then eventually, your table, they'll find a schnitzel for you, yeah? Eventually. Yeah? There it goes. Apparently, a very posh function. If there's 10 people to a table, all 10 waiters come to one table, they wait, and then together, they put your plate down with the stuff on. Well, that's posh. Well, that's very posh. I once been to a cafe like that. It's not put down all. It was weird, very weird. So my table, my husband was the last one to get, but it didn't help me. But it was very weird. They all managed to stand behind you, then together, everyone gets served together. That's what happened here, yeah? Airlifted in, hovering over. So the Balaturian points out there's only one other time in the Torah that says Vayonach. The Tanakh, I tell you. Vayonach, Vayoim, Ashri. The only other time in the Torah, Vayonach, Ashri. Says the Balaturian. Oh, he says Vatanach. There's Vatanach. He says, based on the Torah, Vayonach b'chol gvul Mitzrayim, Vayonach b'yom Ashri, Melamed. Shenoch ha'arba b'Shabbos. It landed on Shabbos, and they did nothing. Just sat there. Now I found somebody showing you say, could it be a medrash? Could it be a medrash? I can't remember. It said Para had a bit of a zechus regarding the day of Shabbos. 70 years earlier, 60 odd years earlier, Moshe Rabbeinu, who was running his household, realized he didn't have a day off. So he convinced Paro, you need to give your workers a rest. You need to give your workers a rest. So Paro said, all right. And Moshe Rabbeinu just coincidentally chose Shabbos for the Yidden, right? Now, he got Rishus and he could do what he wanted. So because Paro did give Rishus for them to have Shabbos off, so therefore it was a zechus that none of the Maccas worked on Shabbos. Like even for the Mitzrayim, it says it with Arba, but if I'm not mistaken, it's either the Rekeach or it was a Medrash says, or it was all the Maccas. On Shabbos, they didn't suffer from the Makkah because there was a bit of a discussion. Yeah, same thing, yeah. Okay. Koved Ma'oid was a very heavy plague of locusts. There was never anything like it before, and never anything like it again. So Rashi asked a question. 700 years later, in Eretz Yisrael, there was another plague of locusts. It says, in the days of Yoel, there was a plague of locusts, and the Navi says, there's never been anything like it forever. So that's Rashi, how can that be? Here the Torah says the one in Mitzrayim, never been anything like it, and there'll never be anything again like it. But the one in Yoel says, there's never been anything like that one. That was the biggest one. So how do you put the two together? So Rashi answered, here it was just Arba, one species. That was never as many again. The time Yoel had many species, so collectively it was more, but as a single species, never been anything like it before. well, yes, it seems to be the word. Good to that. But there's many species. It wasn't just min Arba. That's one answer. That's a Rashi's answer. The Ksav Sofer says something brilliant. He says that sometimes you can say there's never been anything like it in quality, and sometimes in quantity. What's the difference? What's the problem with COVID-19? What are we suffering from? What are the doctors suffering from? It's not quality. They've never had it before, so they don't know yet what they're doing. Now, if in 100 years' time there's another one, it might be bigger and go further, but the shock factor of not knowing what to do won't be there because there has been one before. Right? So say the Ksav Sofer. Here, with the time of Moshe, it was unprecedented. There'd never been one before. So like that, when they didn't know what to do, where to go, what to do, that will never happen again, because this was the first one where there was no precedent what to do. At the time of Yoel, they're talking about the quantity, right? Quantity is taking more, but there's never been anything like that amount. That amount there's never been. But it didn't have the shock factor of Mitzrayim, because in history, everyone knew about it. There had been a plague of locusts before. So in that respect, the one of Moshe was unique. That was unique in unprecedented. And the one in Yoel was unprecedented in the number. Then it was stacking more. That's how he wants to say. Okay, what did it do? Vayechas es ein kol haaretz. Now this is amazing. The eye is called an ayin. Never knew this till this week. Why is it called an ayin? So it's very interesting. Number one, gematria, the letter ayin is 70. There's 70 muscles in the eye. Unbelievable. I spoke to an optician. He told me when he trained, they learned there were 67. And recently, with more research, they admit the 70. Very interesting. Very interesting. So that's number one. Okay, why the yad? Why is it called yad? That's the yad. There's 14 bones. Yud dalet. 3, 3, 3, 3, and 2. That's the pasayad. That's the kafayad. Something else. Right? Okay. So he said the word ayin is from the word mayon, and mayon is a flowing spring. Because your eye, there's like a flowing eyesight is constantly flowing into your eye. Like a mayon is a flowing spring, water's constantly moving. Sight is constantly, you're almost like recording the whole time. Your eyes are recording the whole time. And that's where the word ayin comes from. It's from mayon, a flowing, a continual flow of vision is going into your eye the whole time. So here it covered, you couldn't see the ground. And not only that, it was so high up, it even blocked out sunlight to a certain degree. It went darker, not black, not choshech, but it darkened the sunlight. Ate everything up. There wasn't one blade of grass left. Nothing green was left in Mitzrayim. Now, does anybody know why the Kosh Baruch Hu cover planet Earth with greenery, with green, the color green? Well, everything, yeah. Why is it everything green? Grass is green, leaves are green. So the color, the coating of planet Earth, besides water, is predominantly green. So apparently green is a very soft on the eyesight. Yellow or red are harsh colors. It's hard to look at. Even white. When you go skiing, you have to wear goggles. You can't look at too much white. It dazzles and blinds the eye. But green is a color Kosh Baruch Hu made very easily. Now, you ever go to a hospital, what color are the wards? Either blue or green. Blue is a derivative of green. Green is yellow and blue together, yeah? It's a soothing color. People in hospital for a long time, they can't look at walls which will hurt their eyes. So they always use this very tame color, not to hurt people's eyesight. Or blue. Blue and green are in the middle. Oh, there you are. So there's not one blade of grass left in Egypt. So you imagine Cairo Rangers played on a mud patch, yeah? Everything turned to earth, okay? Now in our country, that will dry out pretty quickly, yeah? Summer, that's what happened. Okay, so now very interestingly, Paro now very quickly calls for Moshe and Aaron. Again, he says Vidui. And this time he includes Moshe Rabbeinu. He asks him forgiveness for having thrown him out. Because he threw him out and he said, just clear off. He's like, ask for forgiveness. Very interesting how Paro, as big a tyrant as he was, there's a certain etiquette at least. Certain, not refinement necessarily, but certain derech eretz. He realized it was wrong the way he treated Moshe Rabbeinu. So you see, even Paro had a certain respect for Moshe. And he says again, please forgive me once more. And Davon, please get rid of this death sentence. So the Orach HaMakodesh says in last week's Edra, he only called for Moshe to get rid of it when he felt he was about to die. And here he says in black and white. So obviously he realized there's no food. So he panicked And he called for Moshe, said, please get rid of it. So Moshe did it. Now Moshe doesn't say anything this time because there's no deals anymore. Yeah, Paro can't say no. And the Choshech, the number 9 is going to be without warning. So Moshe doesn't say anything. He says, and now, how did it come in on an east wind? I lifted on east wind. How did it go out? On the west wind. Again, they were airlifted out to where they came from. So Hashem So Hashem lifted up all the Arba up again, out on the west wing, and they were plonked by the Yamsuf. Interesting. Now, the Yamsuf is broadly near the Negev. Yeah. So today, you still get major plagues of locusts in the Negev. It's very common. Very common. Whether it's left over from here, I don't know. Whether it's a legacy of the Arab and Mitzrayim, I don't know. But Lamaisa says that's where it was done. Yeah, go on, Johnny. Maybe. Well, it could be. It's like it leaves it there, like so they're thinking in that direction. Could be. Okay, did it help? Oh, so not one locust remained in the entire borders of Mitzrayim. Say Chazal, what happened here? Another miracle. Locusts are edible. Speak to old Moroccan Yidden, they'll tell you from before the war, they remember, there used to be locusts. Yeah. The only reason why we don't eat them is because the names, the Ashkenazim lost the names. But the Sfaradim knew the names, which ones were okay, which ones weren't. That's the only reason why they stopped eating them. Sorry? He says, once you lost the Masoros, you've lost it. You got to have the Masoros, which ones they are. Now, the Orach HaMakodesh tells the story. The Orach HaMakodesh tells the story. He said he came to a town in Morocco and they served him coffee, some of black coffee, whatever it was they drank then, and a plate of locusts. Well, you imagine like caramelized locusts, you know, it was a delicacy. So he said he looked at one of them and he said to them, these aren't kosher. They said, what do you mean? So he said, well, Rashi says that the fourth simon of a locust, it's got to have 4 legs. The wings have to cover the whole body. It's got to be called the locust. You've got to know the name. And Rashi says it's got 2 other legs, which are not legs to walk with. It's like props. When it's about to fly off, it props itself up on these 2 front legs. And Rashi says they are somoch l'tzava, next to the neck. It puts its weight on those 2, and then it flies off. He said, these haven't got those 2 legs next to the neck. They're further down the body. He said, these aren't kosher. So he said he stayed in the town and he gave a share and he kept on giving more and more shiurim till they agreed to stop eating these locusts. He said he stayed there till they were makabel themselves not to eat these locusts. He said 13 years later, he returned to this town. And they told him that from the day they used to have illnesses in the town, from the day he told them to stop eating those locusts, there was all these machlas cleared up. And that was a simon in the Shemayim that he was right. They saw that the problem they had come from these machlas asuras, which was a problem, and he sorted it out. He writes in this parish, you go there, and Hilchos Chagovim, he brings this story. He writes the story down. Quite amazing. Quite amazing. Okay. So again, this Paro, listen, no chance. Okay. Now number 9. So 3, 3, and 3. There's no warning now. So out of the blue, Paro sitting in his palace goes dark. What time of the day did Choshech come in? Does anyone know? What time did Choshech strike? I always thought when. Well, I thought, yeah, I was thought during the day. Apparently, it was first thing in the morning when it should have gone lighter. Now they realize something's wrong. Why is it not going light? Right? So nighttime sort of technically continued on. Now it was split. 3 days they just couldn't see, and 3 days they couldn't move. Now, how exactly did Choshech, what did Choshech Baruch Hu do? And whatever he did do, we can ask a question on top of it. Why did he not just make them blind like he did in Sodom? They went blind, so Lot could get out. Why did he not just make the Mitzrayim blind? And the he didn't do that. So what exactly happened? So I found 3 opinions in the Rishonim what happened. Rashi learns the darkness of night got thicker. Got thicker and thicker and thicker. Till eventually they couldn't move. Till eventually, yeah. I think maybe the Rebbeinu B'chai. I think the Rebbeinu B'chai says, he said, sunlight penetrates the atmosphere, and that's how we see. Light penetrates through the atmosphere from the sun, and we can see. So in Mitzrayim, Hashem stopped the sunlight penetrating the atmosphere, and therefore it got dark. Got dark. The Ramban says a black cloud descended on Mitzrayim, a bit like a black jelly, a big black jelly. So first they couldn't see, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually they couldn't move. So why did the Kodesh Baruch Hu do it in 2 stages? 3 days they just can't see, and 3 days they can't move. Says the Al Shech HaKadosh, unbelievable. Chazal give 2 reasons why Kodesh Baruch Hu brought Choshech. Number 1, 4/5 of Klal Yisrael didn't want to come out. They were doing very well in Israel and did not want to come out. So how did Dosan and Aviram come out? Yeah, there were no big tzaddikim, but they got out. The answer is, Chazal say, they lost their money. So therefore they had no reason to stay, so they wanted to come out. You had to want to come out. If the Mitzrayim would have seen those Yidden dying, it would have been a Chilul Hashem. They would have said, oh, Mach is affected us. So Hashem had to hide them, not be seen, so they'd be dead and buried before they get their sight back. So for 3 days, it was just a matter of not seeing. That was the first part of the matter. So they get buried. Okay. The next thing was the Yidden had to go and check the houses where the gold and silver was and where the valuables were. So on the night before you see it in Mitzrayim, when they went round, can we borrow gold and silver? And they said, I haven't got any, very sorry. So he said, well, upstairs in the bedroom on the right there, 3rd drawer down behind the towels, there's a bag of diamonds, they would know. So he said, for that, it's not good enough. They just can't see. Because even if the guy can't see, if he feels there's an intruder in the house, he'll pick up something and try and clobber the guy. He feels threatened. So for that, they had to be immobilized. So for the next 3 days, it got even thicker. And now they couldn't even move. And now it was safe for the Yidden to go around mooching. Now this made a massive Kiddush Hashem. This is all part of our Kodesh Baruch Hu made such a mockery of Mitzrayim. Because in those 3 days, they could have taken baseball bats and bat every Mitzri who hit him over the last couple of years, go and find out where he lives, and go and give him what for. And they didn't. And number 2, they could have nicked anything they wanted. And they didn't. And the Mitzrayim were aware of that. So they felt that there's such ehrlichkeit. So when the Yidden asked them, can we borrow gold and silver? That's why they were very forthcoming. They were convinced they'd get it back. Because if they wanted to steal it, they would have already nicked it in Choshech. So it's all getting ready to when Klal Yisrael leave the bracha of Rechush Gadol, it was all prepared already in place in Makkos Choshech. Okay. So it came, and that's how it went. Now, how on earth, if they couldn't move, how did Paro get a message to Moshe? He said, you can go. How did he get out? So, some say it was Jewish servants, yeah. Some say Jewish servants. Some say it was Dosan Aviram. But it had to be, right? Because he couldn't send anybody. So he must have. Well, it's a Kiddush that he could speak. Yeah, you could. Yeah, it's a Kiddush. But how else did he get a message to them? All right. So then, 3 days, he says, "Vayikra Paro Moshe." Doesn't say it's gone away. He didn't say it's gone away yet. 7th day. So he wanted the Makkah gone already.
No. Even back to the week.
Yeah. So 3 days, and 3 days they couldn't move. And then he calls to Moshe and Aaron.
This is the 7th day. And he could move again.
You want to say they can move again? Maybe that's checked. You mean because they're checked everywhere now. If you drop back a level, just be not you couldn't see, but you could move. Yeah. Could be, maybe. Right. It doesn't. Yeah. So you have to say Chiddush that the Makkah had gone after 6 days, or lifted enough. Yeah, you have to say that. Well, what's the thing was? Because I'll say if you were bent over, you were stuck there for 3 days in that position. Or if you're a guy was sitting on the toilet, he was stuck for 3 days. I mean, that's how it went. Yeah, it says if you're sitting, you couldn't stand. If you're standing, you couldn't sit. You were immobilized for 3 days. By the way, the worst thing if you've got a bad back or a bad muscle is to stay still. To lie in bed is the worst thing.
No, they say they wrote about it. English people all locked up.
All right. So the Yidden South Africa, he designed a mattress. People who are bedbound and can't move, the mattress plus air, I think, goes through the mattress and it sort of bubbles up and down, sort of massages the body, so the muscles shouldn't slip so much. As he told me, the in South Africa designed this mattress so people who can't move in bed, still the body gets moved slightly by vibrations through or air passing through the mattress. Okay, so then Paro makes a deal with Moshe Rabbeinu. Unbelievable deal. He says, you know what, Moshe? The whole lot of you can go. Just leave your animals behind. Like as a guarantee, a security. Yeah, leave your animals behind. So Moshe Rabbeinu says to Paro, he said, listen here. Moshe, not only are we taking our lot, but even you will give us some stuff to take with. We're going to take all ours plus what you give us as a donation. Ours is coming with. And one hoof will remain in Mitzrayim. Now, look at this. Because we're going to take from this to serve Hashem, Elokeinu, and we don't know how many we need. We don't know how many we need. We don't know what we need till we get there. Now, I think they say this, Ramesh Shapiro used to say this chat. I think it's in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. I think so. He said, what's this thing? We're going to take from this to serve Hashem. So he said, Moshe was very impressed with Paro. At the end of the day, he didn't give up, did he? At the end of the day, he was very resilient. So Moshe said to Paro, you know, we're going to learn from you. We're going to learn that when you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you don't give up. He said, nothing's going to remain behind. We're going to learn from you how you do it. Right? Just like you, right to the very end, you stuck to your guns and you're not giving up. That lesson is something we can learn as well, that when we serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, through thick and thin, we're not going to give up. So, of course, Paro didn't want to hear that. So he says, Paro didn't want to send them out. And now, Paro lights, if you like, the green light for Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was told in Shemos, this whole procedure will continue till Paro says, I don't want to hear you anymore. And now Paro says it. He says, clear off. Don't ever see my face again. The day you see my face, you'll die. So Moshe Rabbeinu says very civilly, Moshe, you're spot on. I'm never going to see you again. When I walk out now, I'm never going to see you again. Now.
I'll see you and they'll come to you.
I'll never see you again. See, now he tells him. While Moshe Rabbeinu is standing there, because he said, I'm not coming back in here again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu backed up Moshe Rabbeinu and gave him a nevuah right there in Paro's palace, which was a big chiddush. Because there's a mocking Tomei. And normally Moshe went out of town to speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But because Moshe had said, I'm never going to see you again, I'm not coming back in here again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu backed him up. And look at these words, unbelievable words. He said, there's one more play. When that happens, Yishalach is going to kick you out. When he sends you out completely, Kola entirely, Gorish Yigorish Eschem Mizeh. Now listen to these words. Please, please, please go and speak to the people. V'yishalu, they should go and request. They go. Ish, listen to the words. Ish, every man, me'esra from his colleague. The Isha, and every woman, me'esra usa from her friends. Clay kesef, clay zav, silver and gold. Again, Ish, every man, me'esra from his friends, his colleagues. The Isha, every woman, me'esra usa from her friends. Clay kesef, clay zav, silver and gold. In Shemos, when Hashem told Moshe at the bush about this is going to happen, Hashem said something quite different. He said there, he said, when you leave, you're not going to leave empty-handed. Hashem mentioned one thing. Every woman will borrow from her neighbors and those who live near her. Silver and gold, the smallest in clothes. The Samtim al B'nechem al B'nechem, you put them on your kids. When it's Saltimus, so you're going to empty out Egypt. You're going to bankrupt Egypt. There's no mention there at the bush of a man asking his friend. Only a woman. But now, B'Shas Maisa, when it comes to it, Hashem says to Moshe, first he says, Daber, please speak to them and insist they do it. They won't want to do it. They won't want to. But you got to tell them they must do it. We'll see why in a minute. And Hashem now adds in a new thing. Ishme Esra'ehu, a man. Now comes the command. A man from his friend and a woman from her friend. Now, listen to the next passage. Hashem put the favor of the eyes in the tribe. And everybody lent them. They all did it. All the Mitzrayim lent out their gold and silver. And then it turns out something very strange. What's he doing here? Gam ha'ish Moshe, also the man Moshe, Godel Moed be'eretz Mitzrayim, was viewed as a great man in Mitzrayim. Be'ene avdei Paro, in the eyes of Paro's servants, or be'ene ha'am, in the eyes of the people. What's it going to do with it? Moshe Rabbeinu was viewed great. All Paro's servants viewed. What's that going to do with it? So let's put it all together. So he said, on the night when they went looking for the gold and silver, where did Moshe Rabbeinu go? The mitzvah to go and ask for gold and silver. Where did Moshe Rabbeinu go? He went looking for Yosef's coffin. So what about this mitzvah? This mitzvah was on everybody. So how come Moshe Rabbeinu didn't do it? Could have knocked on one door and one door and get something. No, didn't go for any money. He went purely for, he went and got a hold of and found out where Yosef was. What about this mitzvah? Yeah, there was, it had to be done. Someone had to do it. But what? Says the Chazon Sofer, unbelievable. He says, initially Hashem just mentioned women will borrow, didn't give the command of the men. So only women got a mitzvah. Paro has just said to Moshe Rabbeinu, get out, I don't want to see you ever again. Right? Now HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the command, Ishme Esra'ehu, Ishme Esra'ehu. So you had to go to your colleague, somebody you're equal. Says the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu was now exempt because in the eyes of Mitzrayim, after Paro, he was God, he was greater than them. So you couldn't go to a Chatumim, give me some gold and silver, because it had to be your equal. There's only one person you could have gone to. Who was that? Paro. Paro just said, I don't want to see you ever again. So he couldn't even come back to Paro. On the night when they went to get the money, he couldn't go back to Paro. So now Moshe was exempt from this mitzvah, and now Moshe is free to go and get Yosef's coffin. Brilliant, brilliant. Chazon Sofer, unbelievable. Brilliant. After Paro had said, I don't want to see you anymore, and it said, Gama Moshe God L'ma'oi. So now the silver came to the men, so Moshe made his potter. Not chal on him, because he had no one to go to other than Paro, who he couldn't come back. He just said, I'm not coming back here again. And now it's all finished. So he's potter, he's free to go and get Yosef's bones on the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Okay? Now I want to tell a story. I thought maybe I'll keep it Thursday night, but I might as well say it tonight. Or just a little bit about Chesed. This week's Sedra is jam-packed with mitzvahs, particularly all about Pesach. All of them say tonight, everything's packed into it. That's the raid battle. The Benim Chai talks about it. Yeah, so this story is absolutely incredible. It's such a lesson, such a powerful lesson. But it's a very moving story. But the lesson for us is unbelievable. This happened in Bnei Brak 30 years after the war. So roughly in the 1970s. So the Rav of Chuk Chasim Sofer, the Rav of Chuk, Rafi, you got to hear the story. The Rav of Chuk Chasim Sofer, a Yid came to him. I think it was I think his father. Yeah, his father. Not the one present. The last one. Yeah. He came to him, a Hungarian Yid, and he said to him, Rebbe, I want to tell you I've had a dream, and I want to know what to do. What was the dream? He said 30 years ago, in 1944, I was deported to Auschwitz with a Chava from Hungary. They all got cleared out. Shavuos time, between basically Shavuos, more or less. The whole of the Hungarian Jewry was kicked out to Auschwitz. He said, and the guy next to me, the buck next to me was a Rebbe She'enikol. He didn't say the name, who it was. He said, Benon Shal Kadosh. It was coming from a Shashelet Yuchzib. And he said, every night after a day's work, and we were so down, he said, he used to give me chizuk, and he used to cheer me up and say, tell me Divrei Torah. Anyway, one day he wakes up, and he said, it's nearly Pesach. We've got to get somehow some matzah. He said, I've never missed a match on Saturday night before, and I'm not missing it here now. So he said, oh, Mazel. He said, the factory where we worked during the day actually got bombed by the Allies, and the sacks of flour there, some of them were damaged, were ruined. But the Germans said, anyone caught taking flour, they'll kill him. He said, we managed to nick a bit of the flour. We didn't say nick. Managed to get some of the flour. He said, we took a piece of metal, heated it up. We managed to find a bit of water there as well. And we mixed the flour and water. We heated the metal till it was white hot, put the flour on it. And we made, he said, it was about 2 kazesim of matzah. It was enough about 2 kazesim. Wasn't matzah like we do matzah, but it was the best they could do. Problem was now how to smuggle it back into Auschwitz, into the barracks. You had to come in, you had to march in. They weren't stupid, the Germans. And anything odd, they noticed. So he said he put it under his armpit and he walked in with his arms like this, straight. They managed to get through the gate, but as they got to the block where they were, the guard noticed his arm was rather stiff. He said, what have you got under your arm? So he had to lift his hand up, and out fell this matzah. He said the Nazi took his truncheon and he beat him and he beat him and he beat him and he beat him. And by the time he finished beating him, just doubly nasty, he stood on this matzah. So he said with the last bit of energy he had, he picked up what was there. He said it was Be'erich Kazayas, Be'erich. And he brought it back in and they put him on the bunk and that was it. So he came Seder night and his friend said to him, do you know what? He said, I want to eat that matzah. He said, we'll do a deal. He said, I know that I got the Baal Peh, so I'll say it and you repeat after me. So you're Mekayim Mitzvah, Sibish Mitzrayim. But please let me eat the matzah. He said, what do you mean you eat the matzah? I risked my life to make it. I risked my life to bring it in. All right, I brought it, I almost never survived because of it. And now you want to eat it? He said, please. He said, I've never missed eating matzah. He said, please let me have it. So they came to a deal. Okay, he would say that I got it, and he would repeat it after him. So he'd get that mitzvah. When it comes to the matzah, he would give his chava the matzah, but the schar and olam haba he would get. And they agreed. That was the deal. So he said, that's what they did. So they'll say that in the bunk. He says, I got it, repeats it. He gives him the matzah, and that was it. Next morning, he go out to work. So his friend was, he said, you knew davening Baal Peh. He davened everything up to Hallel Baal Peh. He said, when he came to Hallel, he couldn't hold himself back anymore. And he screamed the bracha, Baruch Hashem. By the time he finished the bracha, the Nazi guard had shot him and killed him. That was the end of his friend. He survived the war. He got to Eretz Yisrael. He got married. 30 years later, his chava comes to him in a dream. Dressed in white. And he says to him, do you remember the Kazaish matzah, the deal, everything? He said, yeah. He's not going to forget it. He said, can I please have the schar, the mitzvah as well? Will you give me the schar? And he said to me in the dream, how confident can you get? Again, I risked my life. I got beaten. The deal was, all right, you can eat it, I get the schar. And now you want the schar as well? And he wasn't masking in the dream. He wasn't masking. But the dream disturbed him. So he went to the Rav of Chukas and asked him, what should I do? What should I do? So he said to him, I can't answer this question. I can't answer this question. You need to go to a big Rebbe who knows these inyanim. Chaloimus or whatever. So he sent him, I think it was the Rachel Street Rebbe, I think at the time. I think it was that one. So he told the story, and he listens to him. Dori listens to him, and he says to him, do you know, Al Pi Yashrus, you should give him the schar of the mitzvah. He said, Yashrus? If any Yashrus here, it belongs to me. What do you mean? He says, no, Yashrus means to be fair. He said, and you know what? He said, here are the keys to the base of measure next door. Go and take the keys. No one's there now. Go and open the Aron HaKodesh and go and say, Pharaoh is in front of the Aron HaKodesh, Rabbeinu Shalom, I'm Mochel Machava, and I give him the schar of the mitzvah. And he said, come back to me after you've done it. So he did it. He went next door. He started reliving that night in Auschwitz and then what he went through. And he said, he was crying away, and he said, I'm Mochel him, and I give him the schar of the mitzvah, and he collapsed. Basically, he fainted. Schava came to him in a dream while he was there, and he thanked him. He thanked him for the schar. So he gets up and he goes back next door and he says to him, what's up? So he said, listen, okay, I'll tell you why it's Yashkas. He said, that guy, not only did he die in the war, his entire family was wiped out. He said, but he was a big Odom Godly. He was a tzaddik. He did lots of mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim in his lifetime, but that's it. He has no talmidim and no children to send in more zchusim. He said, you survived and you've got children and grandchildren, and they will send you more zchusim. Besides what you do in your lifetime, they will continue sending you zchusim. He said, if he was prepared to leave Olam Haba to come down and ask you for the schar of that mitzvah, he said, it must be, he's desperate, he needs it. And he's got no one else who can send him any more zechusim. So the only one thing he could do was come and ask you for that thing. He said, you've got descendants who will send you more zechusim. He said, therefore, Piyashra is really, the one favor you could do for him is give him that, the schar that mitzvah. That was the story. So Yaki Galinsky, when he heard this from the Baal Meister, he said, now let's think how many opportunities we've had in our lives to do a mitzvah. And we missed it, or we've been lazy and ignored it, or done nothing at all. He said, but here you see, it was like for Yid, it was in Olam Haba, it was in Gan Eden. And he died at Kiddush Hashem. Can you imagine how high he was in Gan Eden? And it was still worth his while to come back to this world and ask for the schar of one more mitzvah. Can you imagine what we wasted and what opportunities we wasted? You get an opportunity to do something special, do it, grab it, use it, because after 120 years, the person might regret when he sees what a schar he would have got. He's going to regret he didn't grab the opportunity to do it. Okay, to finish off one thing of the Avos Chesed. Unbelievable story. So he says here, he talks about not giving more than a fifth. Right? This is for a modcha. So he says, is that if a guy's an Osher Muflug, the Chacham Tzaddim writes, if his family's wealthy, he can give more because it's not going to affect his day-to-day living. The whole reason is not to, he shouldn't become needy. So he says, Osher Muflug, so he can give a bit more. And then he says a person on his deathbed is allowed to give as much as he wants. Shouldn't give everything. He shouldn't take away his wish or anything. We can give more. He can certainly give more. And he said another thing is a very interesting thing. He said that's only if he wants to go and give out, distribute his stocker, then he's allowed to give up to a fifth. He said, but if needy people come to his door, we mentioned this yesterday. If needy people come to his door, he's got to give it. But he said in particular, if it's pekuach nefesh, if there's a Piddush Shulim involved, or a story where people's lives are at stake, he said, then there's no cheshbon of, oh, I'm giving a fifth, I can't give a penny more. And of course, he said, because nefesh will override the halacha of giving a fifth. And then he says a very interesting halacha. It only applies to regular stocker, but if you're supporting Torah study, if you be machzik Talmidei Chachamim, then there's no limit of a fifth, because it's not stock, it's a different mitzvah. Machzik Torah is, you're actually effectively paying to receive the schar of his half of Torah in Olam Haba. So there's no limit to that. It's up to you how much Torah you want to buy by providing for Talmidei Chachamim. So there, Chazal didn't put that's there's no limit on that because Talmud Torah ain't there's no share. So similarly, Machzik Torah has got no share. So if you want to give a bit more there, you'd be allowed to. That wouldn't be a thing. It's only actual stocker. As I'll say, Hamavazva is Yosef Michaimish, but Talmud Torah is a different mitzvah, and the proof is it's not in Hilchos Stocker. Socher Zvulun is in Hilchos Talmud Torah. It's not in Hilchos Stocker. To show it's a chelik of the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, you can either learn yourself or you get somebody else to do the learning, and it's as if you did it. Either or. It's a chelik of Talmud Torah. It's not got the regulations and the restrictions of the giving of stocker. Okay, guys, we'll carry on.
Very good.